I like these Gamakatsu hooks because it's kind of got a flat spot right there where you can put your smaller bait fish on. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the hook, point down, and clamp it into your vise. Now when you tie this, you got to remember that you don't want to prevent the fish from getting hooked, so you have to tie it in a spot where it's high enough to where you can hook the fish, and it's low enough to where it's not going to interfere with your second bait fish on the top of the shank. So usually a good spot with these is somewhere right here, right around this area here. So I'm going to try and mimic a smaller size bait fish on the back side of the hook. And what I like about this fly is, especially in the springtime on lights where I am, you'll see tarpon feeding on big schools of small bait fish. You'll have them, especially this time of year, you'll have them check your fly out, and they'll be interested, but they're not going for it, and then you'll see them just take a bucket mouthful of little bait fish. And this is, as you see in the video, it's a real nice action in the water, and it gets the fish fired up. So I cut down a small section of some white flashy material here, and basically what I'm doing is just kind of pulling out the gnarly stuff. And I'm going to take the flat part, make sure you get some nice tight wraps, and secure it onto the back side of the hook, making sure it's nice and even. Alright, so now that we've done that, I'm going to take some more flash material. This has got a nice purple, a deep purple in it. Kind of mimics that line the little bait fish have that run horizontally down the side of them, you know. It's not gonna take much to get them jazzed up when they see this. It's something that they don't see too often, if at all. So, and it's fun, you know, it's something cool, different to throw. So now I've tied the second material in. Just kind of comb it out with your fingers again, and then go in on each side and dam up either side of the material, and then kind of wrap it so one portion is halfway up your wraps, and then do the same on the other side. Take some ink, and I like to do, rather than using red line, I like to actually ink white line. You'll see in a second when we apply this Deer Creek onto here, the red kind of resonates through the resin and it makes it look like a bleeding head almost. It's pretty cool. Alright. Unfortunately, I'm going to drop a little cement on here. Unfortunately, I don't have any Zap. It's coming in the mail. But Deer Creek, this resin I'm using, it's extremely solid. It'll hold these eyes in place. I always like to have the extra security, but... And 2 on. Make sure they're even. And I like to have the eye kind of actually hanging off the back of the hook. and angled slightly down. So now I'm going to take my Deer Creek, and you should, if you have glue to be using on the back of these eyes, I would definitely use it. The only reason I'm not using it is because I am waiting for mine to come. So now you want to make just kind of a ball shape. You can rotate your vise with this stuff to kind of move the resin before you heat it. Alright, I'm going to do the same on the back side. Now this is something you might want to pay attention to here. Right before I apply this Deer Creek, I'm going to angle my material a little bit down. And then hold it there once I heat it. Alright, so you've got your head attached to the rear of the hook. Everything's good there. Now flip your shank up and adjust it to start tying like a normal fly. Alright, so your hook's in the vise. And what we're going to do is a high tie polar fiber fly. This is a good option on something like this because it shoots right up, and as you saw in the video, there's no interference between the two fish. So start by wrapping your hook, and then right around here make just a little lump to keep your material up, just like that. Alright, so I'm going to start with a white bottom. This is polar fiber. This material is super cool. It holds shape very well, and it's very thin, so it's like flaky in the water. Looks really good, and it gets fish very excited. Gets me excited. So we're gonna trim. This can be tricky using this material because it gets very messy, but you want to trim all this fat stuff off and have a nice clean cut before you tie it onto your hook. Get all that junk out of there. Spin your bob in there to get your line nice and tight, and bring it back right to that lump, the base of that lump we tied on. And there's the first part. So now you're gonna take another, we'll do 4, I'll show you the second one. Take another pinch, get all that nasty stuff out of there. Stroke it a little more. Get all that funky stuff. And then make your cut, make sure it's nice and clean. And lay it right on top. Just double what you just did. Alright, so now you've got your 4 strips of the white polar fiber on your shank, and it should be looking something like this. I've got a little bit of a curve going down, and now I'm going to lay the blue strips right across the top. Do 3 or 4, whatever floats your boat. You're never going to get super consistent on these when you're just measuring out the material by hand, you know, so everybody's different. Slide in. And then bring this all the way back to your white. Like so. And then give yourself a couple more layers of that, and then we'll be putting on our eyes and calling it a day. Alright guys, so now we've gotten to the point where we are just about finished. I like to color the ink, or color the thread, because that Deer Creek really makes it work. I'm not gonna waste your time and have you watch me put on both the eyes. I'll put on one so you can kind of get an idea of where to place them. I will say there is one last final trick that you want to make sure you want to do before you finish everything up, and that is to kind of stroke out your material, get it to where you want to hang in the water, and take this Deer Creek here and just coat the edge of where your wrap is meeting the material, just as kind of an extra security. I know it really won't interfere with the bottom fish, but it's just nice to have the security. And once you've done that, you can kind of drag that out over the rest of the red there to make it look injured. Beautiful. And then I'm going to take a fairly large size eye. I'll put it on here so you guys can see. You know, you want to leave it right where you dropped all that stuff, right on the edge. Again, I'm going to have to hold off on putting these eyes on until I get the zap. But yeah, that's a basic way to tie this fly. It is very effective, not all the time, but when you're seeing fish swing at big schools of little bait, this is what I would throw.